Well, talking about losing the plot, Keir Starmer.
He will never recover from this. It doesn't take a rocket scientist to realise that Peter Mandelson would need vetting. This man is a shyster. Starmer as a deceitful, nasty, spiteful little bully of a man. This is the worst kind of cronyism. It beggars belief. He misled Parliament. There's a part of me, and I'm even shocking myself by saying this.
Hello and welcome to the Daily Expresso with me, JJ Anisiobi, and she loves this part. Most importantly, Carole Malone.
Glad you got that right. Most importantly, it's good to see you.
You two looking good today.
Well,
Vision in blue.
Well, I'm not feeling my best because there's a tube strike out there.
Yes.
So I've spent most of the last 3 days in a cab, popping out to do occasional things like this for a few minutes and then popping back into the cab. It's just driving me nuts.
Gosh, it's not affecting me. I got straight on the train this morning.
You on the train?
Yep, overground, nice and easy.
Well, I could do that, but I couldn't.
You could do it, actually.
Well, I couldn't really because there's no tube where I. Well, there's another on strike. What am I talking about? I'm missing the point. I could do, but it's quite a walk to my train station, JJ.
You could do with a few extra steps, I think.
You're probably right. I'm not going to argue about that. I'm going to let you get away with that.
Well, talking about losing the plot.
Yes.
Keir Starmer. Is his time nearly up?
Oh, do you know how many? If I had a penny for every time someone's asked me that question in the last year and a half, I'd be a rich person. You know, I think this has literally done for him, but I don't think he's going anywhere soon. Mm-hmm. I think come the May elections, if he gets the drubbing we're all expecting him to get, I think the people who want to replace him will move on him then if they're so bad, if the results are so bad. But he will never recover from this. It's interesting that watching the Olly Robbins evidence yesterday, it was devastating for Starmer. I loved, Olly Robbins. I think it's Olly Robbins of a Prime Minister, actually. That's what I think. Because he was so good. He was like a silent, polite, smiling executioner. Mm-hmm. He just did it. I liked him. I liked the way he did it. And, what I loved about what he was saying about that, him and his officer were basically bullied into passing the vetting of Mandelson. I loved the fact he did it in a way that suggested more sorrow than anger. Mm-hmm. He wasn't there sticking the knife in. He was actually saying it in a kind of a disappointed way, which made me like him all the more. And I was thinking, why don't we have people like him in the cabinet? Clever people, smart people.
Yeah.
And what impressed me about him, I think, more than anything, was the fact that he wasn't just trying. When I say trying to save his own skin, he's been fired, so he couldn't. But what was more important to him was that the office, the Foreign Office, and the people he called his brilliant staff weren't smeared by Starmer. Mm-hmm. He wasn't going to have that, and that just made me see that he's the man of integrity who. Someone like him should be in Downing Street, not the bloke who keeps on telling us he's got integrity but doesn't have a shred of it. And I just thought, Starmer should have watched Olly Robbins yesterday and thought this is a masterclass in loyalty, because that's what it was. He was showing loyalty to his staff, something which Starmer has never done. He just keeps firing everybody in the hope it's going to save his own skin. And it kind of makes you wonder how many more human sacrifices there's going to be. But what's interesting today is that after that evidence yesterday, a lot of the cabinet, a lot of the backbenchers suddenly started to talk. They're turning on him now. They're basically talking about how disgracefully Robbins was treated. They're talking openly about Starmer's flawed judgment in thinking he could get away with blaming the Foreign Office for everything and walking away clean from it. It was a joy in Parliament this week when I found myself cheering Diane Abbott and Emily Thornberry, who were sticking the knife into Starmer. Absolutely, because, you can't have a Prime Minister who said, I didn't know. Mm-hmm. And as Diane Abbott says, well, why didn't you ask? Why didn't you ask the question? Because it doesn't take a rocket scientist to realise that Peter Mandelson would need vetting. Mm-hmm. This man is a shyster of the first order. You know, he has been, his reputation in politics for as long as I can remember has been he's had a malign reputation. People have known about his links to Russia and to China. They've known as far back as the 80s that he was looked at by Russian intelligence officers. We've seen him sitting aboard the yachts of Russian oligarchs. So we know he's dodgy. Mm-hmm. You and me know he's dodgy.
Yeah.
And so the fact that the Cabinet Office and Starmer didn't particularly think he needed vetting is actually beyond belief. It's literally beyond belief.
Yeah.
You just look at Peter Mandelson. If ever a bloke needed vetting, you know, there are spies in communist China who Mandelson would need more vetting than. Do you know what I mean? It's like, it's just ridiculous. And the fact that he was allowed to start this job before the vetting process had even started. Mm-hmm. And he was given access to highly sensitive, not just British intelligence, but to US intelligence as well.
Yeah.
And we know now that it wasn't just people here in our services that were saying don't appoint him. In America, they were saying don't appoint him as well. Officials there were saying this is a bad appointment.
Yeah.
And Starmer went ahead with it anyway. And people will be asking themselves, why did he forge ahead with this? And he did it because it was self-interest. It's like everything Starmer does, it's about self-interest. Mm-hmm. He wanted Mandelson in position because he wanted Mandelson to ingratiate himself with Trump so that Starmer's relationship with Trump would be better. You know, he wanted a snake in Washington to pal up with the snake in charge there. And this was all about him. This wasn't about the national interest. And this has shamed Starmer to his boots, the fact that everything he does is about him. And you just wonder how long he is going to limp on. You know, if he had a shred of the integrity he says he has, he'd have gone a long time ago. He has no honour. He has no integrity. And I think what Olly Robbins showed yesterday was that he has.
Yes, absolutely.
He could have made things a lot worse for Starmer, I think. He could have made things a lot worse for someone like Morgan McSweeney, because he was asked directly questions that did relate to McSweeney, and he never uttered his name. Not even when Emily Thornberry uttered the sentence, I'm not even sure I can say the sentence that she uttered.
Go on,
McSweeney had said, where he said, you know, give him the effing vetting. Mm-hmm. But he didn't say any of that, Robbins. He did enough.
Yeah.
To paint Starmer as a deceitful, nasty, spiteful little bully of a man. And that has damaged him irreparably.
Well, there was a cabinet meeting yesterday, and it's been reported that when Starmer walked into the cabinet meeting, he was met with virtual silence, and everyone was just had their heads down, looking at the table. They are not looking to protect him.
No. I mean, Yvette Cooper kind of turned on him today. She was talking about how disgraceful it was that David Lammy, the then Foreign Secretary, hadn't been told. And this is another thing that Robbins blew yesterday, that Starmer wanted Olly Robbins to get a cushy ambassadorial role for his very good friend Matthew Doyle, another friend of a pedo. And you know, at the time, you know, Doyle was a very average press officer. Yeah. They called him communications chief, but he was actually a press officer, not a very good one. And yet, because he was Starmer's mate, he wanted Olly Robbins to get him this plush ambassador. And what Robbins said yesterday was interesting. He said, there was me. He said, I was having to sack good ambassadors because there was no money, and yet he wanted me to get a job for this person who wasn't very good. Robbins didn't say that. I just said that. But the truth of it is, Doyle was not very good at his job. Yeah. And it just, you know, I don't know whether you remember, and I do, when Boris was in power, and Starmer was forever banging on about cronyism. Yes. This is the worst kind of cronyism. And so Robbins did stick the knife in with that yesterday. But also, Lammy, we're now being told Lammy is saying that he never thought he should have been appointed. Mm-hmm. Why didn't he say so at the time? It's all very well now jumping on the bandwagon. Ed Miliband said at the time that this would all blow up in Starmer's face, and that Mandelson was toxic. And this is a fact that we all knew. Yeah. We've all known Mandelson for years, and we know that he's a snake. We know he's up to his eyeballs in sleaze and mess, and yet Starmer still appointed him to one of the best jobs in government.
Yeah.
Without vetting.
Bonkers.
It beggars belief.
Well, today at PMQs, Kemi Badenoch told Starmer, take responsibility and go. But I would warn Kemi Badenoch, we shouldn't be calling every time someone's something wrong, call for them to step down. I mean, with Starmer, fair news, this is like
he's had a lot of
these.
Yeah.
But it was Tony Blair who said it last year or year before. If you keep saying to whoever's in power, step down, step down, step down, once you're in power, people will do the same things to you.
Oh, well, you know, we've seen examples this week of the stuff that Starmer said to Boris at the time of Partygate.
Yeah.
You know, that he had to go because he'd misled Parliament, and anyone who misleads Parliament has to go. So here he's now misled Parliament inadvertently, he says, which, you know, I wonder what happened if I inadvertently didn't pay my taxes or I inadvertently sped along the road and got a ticket. You still take the consequences of your inadvertent actions.
Yeah.
But the inadvertent thing, that's just a weasel's way. That's just typical. But, you know, there's a part of me, and I'm even shocking myself by saying this, that I don't want Starmer to go in the sense that I know what's coming after him. And that terrifies me more than, you know, Starmer's an idiot. I mean, but he's a grade of idiot. The one who will take his place, Angela Rayner, I mean, is literally a grade A, top class idiot. And I fear, and if her right-hand man is Miliband, the zealot, another fool, yeah. I fear for what's... So, you know, there's a part of me that wants him to bumble on for the next 2 years and doing whatever damage she's going to do, because I think it'll be less damage than what Rayner will inflict on this country. I mean, this is a woman, and I don't care if people say this is not the right thing to say. I don't care. She left school without a single O-level at 15. She's not bright, and you have to be right to be bright to run a country. And, you know, people say, oh, you know, qualifications don't matter. They do, actually, because it is a marker of your intelligence and your abilities, and she has none of those. And I fear for that.
Well, listen, if you're enjoying the episode so far, if you're enjoying listening to Carole and me, then make sure you hit the subscribe button, like, and also hit that hype button. And if you're listening on Spotify, do us a favour, leave a review. 5 stars, please. Thank you. Carole, I don't know about qualifications, you know.
Do you not? How many have you got?
Our producer, well, I've got several. Our producer only got 4 GCSEs.
Well, he got 4, though.
Yeah, but only 4.
And he's not running a country.
No, and he's running this show terribly.
Yeah, well, to be fair, our ratings are, No, but I think, you know, I just think Rayner has, you know, none of us who got 4 or 5 or however many, we're not running a country. We don't have that responsibility. You know, our intelligence isn't on show every day of every week, and we don't have to make decisions that can kill people, that can change countries, that can change economies. We don't have to make those kind of decisions, but she will have to do that. And my fear is that she won't be able to do it. And if she's guided by Miliband, God help us all. God help anyone who works, who has a work ethic, who believes in that. God help them if they get Miliband, because he just wants to do what actually the whole Labour government wants to do, just look after the people who don't work.
What about Shabana Mahmood? There's no chance she'll...
There's no chance she'll get it. Of them all, yes. Streeting... Yeah, I don't trust a word he says, but I think he's quite bright.
Yeah.
You know, isn't it incredible that in a whole cabinet full of people, we're looking at also Rands to be the main person, because there really isn't anyone. You know, I've never known a cabinet that is so bereft of talent and intellect than this one, and experience. You know, they don't know. A lot of the cabinet didn't know how things like the vetting procedure worked. I mean, we found that over the last years. They didn't know how any of it worked.
Yeah.
And Robbins kind of talked about that. So I just want a little bit of smartness in you know, in people at the helm, and I think, you know, I think Rayner doesn't have that, and I'm sorry, I don't care if that offends people, and it's not against the sisterhood, because there are some amazing women in politics who would run the country a million times better than Angela Rayner,
yeah,
but they don't have the backing of the unions, and they're not hard left.
That's true. This is true.
You know.
All right, let's move on to our next story. So this is pretty shocking, actually. London landlords are illegally advertising Muslim-only flat rentals. This is on Facebook Market, on Gumtree, on Telegram. These adverts have been featuring phrases such as only for Muslims, or a room for 2 Muslim boys or 2 Muslim girls, or Muslims preferred. Well, this is against the law.
Well, you've said it all now. I've got nothing more to say on that. Because that's all the story says. Yes, I mean, it's outrageous. But, you know, and you're right, they're also advertising for people who speak particular languages. You know, Hindus only, Muslims only. They want people to, and that is, yes, it's against the Equalities Act of 2010. But what's going to happen? Absolutely nothing.
Why do you think these listings are allowed to happen?
Well, because we're scared to attack Muslims. We're scared to attack any religion apart from Christianity. You know, if a white Christian had said, I only want Catholics, there would have been hell to pay. Yeah. I mean, the law would have come down on them like a ton of bricks. We know it would. Yeah. But because it's about Muslims and people and people speaking languages. I think they were asking for Pakistanis in one place as well, Pakistani nationals, whatever. You just can't do it. But this country is in such a mess that there is no deterrent for anything. Because what's the worst they're going to do? They're going to say to landlords doing that, stop it. There'll be no consequence. There'll be no fine. There'll be no going to court. There'll be no being accused of smashing the equality. There'll be none of that. There are no consequences. And that's part of the problem in our society now. There are no consequences for anything. And I just feel everyone feels they can just chance it and get away with everything, because the only reason a copper's going to come to your door is if you sent a hurty tweet to somebody. I mean, that's the only reason they're coming to your door.
It is mental. I went on Gumtree to do my own research into this. Typed in all the major keywords for the big religions. The only ones that came up with adverts was for Muslims and for Hindus. Nothing else on there apart from those two religions, which is just
it's outrageous.
Mental. It's crazy.
Yeah, but what can we do? I mean, and I don't even know who would act against that, really. Do you know what I mean? A copper's not going to go out for that.
No.
You know, he's not going to go out and arrest someone for that. So they're going to be able to keep on doing it, and they're going to be able to keep breaking the law, like almost every other law is broken in this country. You know, when you think about that, 93% of quite serious crimes are not solved in this country. They're not going to go after people for that. They're just not.
No, you're right. Well, speaking of lawbreakers, have you heard the one about the Morrisons manager who got sacked?
Do you know what? This really upsets me, this story. This is a guy called Sean Egan who had worked for Morrisons for 29 years, been a trusted, loyal employee, and he was a manager. And he he confronted a shoplifter and then tried to restrain him because this scumbag started spitting at him and shouting at him. And Sean was frightened that he would do it to staff and he would do it to customers. So he restrained him and tried to throw him out. The thing he was trying to do originally was not even arrest him. He just wanted him out of the store. And of course, Morrisons have fired him for this. And this follows hot on the heels of the story of a guy called Walter Smith, who worked for Waitrose for 17 years. Same thing. He just said, I got sick of watching these people just lifting things, being cocky, knowing they weren't going to get stopped, and walking away. And he tried to stop the shoplifter. You know, these stores should be celebrating the fact they have employees like this.
Yeah.
They should be rewarding them. You know, I'm not saying everyone who works in a shop should tackle a shoplifter. But if you want to, and you think you can, and you think you can sort it, do it. Why wouldn't you let that happen? Now, in my head, I'm thinking they don't want to let it happen because they think that the employee will sue them if they get hurt.
Oh, yeah, okay.
Maybe it's to do with that. Maybe they've worked out that losing stuff from the shop wouldn't be as expensive as a personal injury claim.
Yeah.
And if it is, I mean, that's a really cynical way to operate your business. But, you know, what this also does now, if I was a shoplifter, I'd be going to Morrisons now. And I'd be going to Waitrose because you know they're not going to do anything.
Yeah.
You know, we've seen that they don't care anyway. There was a guy in Marks and Spencer's the other week, a guy who came in and they tried to stop him and said, please stop doing that. He just threw them out of the way and left. And he didn't even hurry as he was thieving. He just walked around quite slowly, quite leisurely, put in a basket what he wanted and off he went.
Yeah.
So what you're doing is you're saying to all these thieves and scumbags and people who, you know, won't pay for anything, come on down. It's all free. And I just think it's not fair. It's not fair on the rest of us who pay for our stuff, who wouldn't dream of thieving from a shop. You know, we're the good customers. Look after us. Think about what we care about. And I just think this is employer treachery of the worst kind. You know, what would make anyone be loyal to their store? So, you know, if you worked for one of these stores and you were a good employee, you would think, well, what's the point? Yeah. Why don't I nick a few things? Why don't I take a leg of lamb home? Why don't I take a packet of biscuits home? You know, you're just fostering this culture that thieving is all right, and it's really not. Yeah. And you're also fostering a culture that, you know, these people they can spit at you, they can hurt you, they can smack you. And you know, this guy Sean now hasn't worked since January. And I was just reading about him today, and he says, you know, my family are barely surviving. I'm hoping to God some other supermarket comes out like Iceland did the other week to give Walter Smith a job. I hope Iceland give him a job, because his family are suffering, because he did a noble thing. He did a brave and noble thing. And for that he's lost his job.
So a bit about the criminal that he apprehended. Daniel Kendall, 36 years old. He has been responsible for over 100 different convictions and thefts, 100 offences to his name. That day, and because you're going to have the wokies saying, well, maybe this thief was stealing for his family and blah, blah, blah.
Baby
Two
milk.
bottles of Jack Daniels. Yeah, that's what he had in his hands. Yeah. 2 bottles of Jack Daniels. And Morrisons said, well, we tell our staff, deter but do not detain.
Well, what does that mean? Stop doing it. They're going to say a swear word at you, and they're going to carry on doing it and walk out the shop, because they know we now know that all shop assistants are told not to tackle thieves. So, you know, I think we should be having tasers with security guards. Other way around, security guards with tasers.
I like them.
What I was going to say was a taser attached to a security guard. I think we should have big burly security guards with tasers, and you say to them, "Stop it!" And if they don't, and to give you a lip or they come for you, you taser them. And then
I'm for that.
They're not going to do it again. Yeah. And it works in other European countries. It happens there. And believe it or not, when they do it, the shoplifting goes down in that particular shop or that particular. Funny that, isn't it? A deterrent. You know, you're on the ground screaming in pain, and that kind of tends to deter you from taking a leg of lamb.
These shoplifters as well, they go for the shops like a Morrisons, like a Tesco, like an Asda, where they've got huge stores and security guards who, generally speaking, are small. They're not going to be able to do anything.
What's the point of that?
Exactly. They might as well not have the security guards.
You need 6 foot plus and 20 stones.
Yeah.
Who can fight.
Yeah.
That's what you need. You don't need little soft-spoken gentlemen saying, please don't do that.
Because if you go to, for example, my local corner shops, thieves aren't going to steal from my local Turkish shop because the Turkish owners aren't going to have it.
Well, exactly.
Yeah.
They know that they're taking on a bigger force than themselves.
Yeah.
And that's what you need to know. And we used to have those kind of, I mean, I remember security guards. I remember the big ones used to follow you around the shop.
Yeah.
For some reason, they used to follow me all the time.
Well, I
don't know why.
Because you're a thief, Carole.
But I used to turn around and go, what? Because they were that close to me.
Empty your bag.
Well, you know,
bottles of vodka.
As if. But you know, I think you're following the wrong person, matey. It's him over there. Get in. You know, there was one last week, and Mark's following me around all the time. And I said to him there, "Do you want to come in the changing room with me?" What? But you know, big guys who won't take any nonsense.
Exactly.
With the taser.
That's it. Carole, I'm gonna have to let you go because your taxi's here.
Well, do you know how long it's going to take me to get home in my taxi? At least 2 hours to do 6 miles.
Good Lord.
This is London.
I'm trying to get you out of here. You're still talking. All right.
I think it's just because you're a bit bored. I don't think you care about my journey home at all. But anyway, I will go. We'll go now.
Good. Get out of here. Thanks for being on today, Carole. Love it. And thank you for watching. That was a Day Expresso. Like, share, subscribe, hit the hype button. And if you're on Spotify, leave us a 5-star review. Go on, do it. See you next time. Bye-bye.